He designed the most iconic car in Hollywood history. He was the Golden Prince of Detroit, dating supermodels and defying the corporate gods. And to save his empire from crumbling into dust, he tried to traffic 27 kilos of cocaine in a deal with the FBI. Welcome to the DeLorean Dossier.
Within the Chronos Dossier, every moment is scrutinized, every secret revealed.
Before the stainless steel, before the gull-wing doors, and long before the handcuffs, John DeLorean was the smartest guy in the room. In the gray, dull world of 1960s GM, DeLorean was a shock of technicolor. He wasn't just an engineer, he was a rock star. He gave the world the Pontiac GTO. He created the muscle car era almost single-handedly. While other executives wore stiff suits and went home to the suburbs at 5 p.m., John wore unbuttoned shirts, dated Ursula Andress, and lived a life that made the conservative board of directors at GM nervous. But John had a fatal flaw: hubris. He believed he was bigger than the system. In 1973, walking away from a guaranteed path to the presidency of General Motors, he quit. He didn't want to climb the ladder anymore. He wanted to own the ladder. He announced he would build the ethical sports car, a car that would last forever, the DMC-12. Building a car company from scratch requires more than ego. It requires a mountain of cash. And Wall Street wasn't buying John's dream. So he looked across the ocean. He found a desperate partner: the British government. Northern Ireland was burning. The conflict between the IRA and the British forces, the Troubles, had left Belfast shattered. Unemployment was catastrophic. John DeLorean pitched them a savior narrative. Give me the money, and I will build a factory right on the divide between Catholics and Protestants. I will bring peace through industry. It was a brilliant sales pitch. The British government handed him nearly $100 million. But building a futuristic factory in a war zone with a workforce that had never built cars before was a recipe for disaster. "1981. The car finally launches, and the reality hits. The DMC-12 looked like a spaceship, but it drove like a tractor. It was underpowered, heavy, and plagued with quality control issues. The doors leaked, the electrical systems failed, and the price? It was doubled what he promised. Reviews were brutal. But the real problem was the timing. The U.S. economy entered a recession. Interest rates skyrocketed. The car market froze. By 1982, the factory in Belfast was bleeding money. Margaret Thatcher, the new Iron Lady of Britain, looked at the books and slammed the checkbook shut. She was done subsidizing DeLorean's failures. John needed $17 million immediately, or the dream was dead. The banks said no. The investors said no. The government said no. Desperation makes men do strange things. Enter James Hoffman, a former neighbor of DeLorean, a smooth talker, and a paid FBI informant. Hoffman knew John was desperate. He dangled a solution, not a loan, an investment. The scheme was simple, and it was deadly. DeLorean would put up nearly $2 million to finance the import of 100 kilos of cocaine. The profit from the street sales would be laundered back into the motor company as a legitimate investment. John DeLorean, the man who wanted to build the ethical car, was now discussing drug logistics. October 19th, 1982. The Sheraton Plaza Hotel near LAX. Room 501. The trap was set. The FBI had wired the room for video and sound. John walks in to meet the investors, undercover federal agents. On the table, there's a suitcase. An agent opens it. Inside, packed tight, are kilos of cocaine. John picks up a packet. He holds it. He looks at it with a smile that would haunt him for the rest of his life. He says the famous words, "It's better than gold. Gold weighs too much." He toasts to the deal with a glass of wine. Moments later, the door bursts open. "Police, don't move!" The Prince of Detroit was in cuffs. The footage was broadcast on every news station in America by dinner time. The DMC-12 wasn't a car anymore. It was a punchline. The trial was a circus. John's defense team, led by a brilliant legal strategy, didn't deny he was in the room. They didn't deny he said the words. They argued entrapment. They argued that the FBI and Hoffman had preyed on a desperate man, manufacturing a crime that John would never have committed on his own. Shockingly, the jury agreed. John DeLorean was acquitted of all charges. But in the court of public opinion, and in the brutal reality of the market, the verdict didn't matter. The DeLorean Motor Company was bankrupt. The factory was closed. The dream was sold for scrap metal. John spent the rest of his life trying to rebuild, selling watches, pitching new car ideas that nobody listened to. He died in 2005, a man consumed by the what-ifs. John DeLorean wanted to be remembered as a visionary, the man who changed the automotive world. And, ironically, he did. Just not for the engineering. He became the ultimate cautionary tale of corporate greed. He proved that when the walls close in, the line between a CEO and a criminal is thinner than the sheet of stainless steel. He built a time machine, but he couldn't go back and fix his own mistakes. In the market, history always repeats itself.